Okay. He's trying to escape. Say hello. Everyone talks about awkward dogs, but like this thing here is probably one of the most awkward creatures I've been around. Say hello. Anyways, what a way, hello. Sometimes I remember that I'm 24 and it really like cringes me out with the way that I act sometimes. I'm in a really bad creative rut, but I got an idea for a video today, so we're gonna do it. I find Goodreads ratings so hilarious sometimes because people are honest and I love that. Sometimes not with 5-star ratings, but 3 and below, you're getting a word vomit like no other. So I thought it would be fun to read the 1-star reviews of some of my favorite books from this year and books I rated like 4.5 and above. So I started my year off with Nocticadia, which I thought was such a fun, kind of dark academia, professor-student romance. And Carrie Lake is my girl. I really, really love her books. All right, we will start off with our first review here. Lila is a dumb loser and a little rat. Also, your half-sister can go to public school. What does that even mean? Truthfully, I'm like trying to rack my brain of the plot of Nocticadia again because I feel like she's not teacher's pet, maybe. All right. So the vibe I'm getting here is that she did not like the book. Did not like Lila. I feel like we are in an epidemic of... What do you want? Okay, do you want to say hi again?
Hello.
Okay, boyfriend cameo.
Bye, Queen.
Bye, King. I feel like we are in an epidemic of FMC hating. Truly, are female main characters that annoying? I don't know. I actually liked Lila's character as an older sister myself. But whatever. I guess she's a rat. Could almost... Can't speak for the life of me or read.
All my comprehension skills just go out the window.
Could almost give it 5 stars for ending. Well, at least you finished it. I don't really like when people DNF a book and then leave a review. The only book I've done that on is Hunting Adeline. The rest of them, I will not rate. I'll mark it as finished, duh, because I read some of it, but no thank you. DNF, did not know I had so much anxiety about worms, but I do now. I thought that was cool and scientific and was a good plot driver, but being mentioned in this book and you mean to tell me that this is what peak literature is supposed to be. I never said it was peak literature. I said that it was a good time, okay? Yeah, that is a little strange. I feel like the minute they mention any form of existing social media in this world we live in, sucks me right out of it. But I love getting secondhand embarrassment in books, and that's what that scene did. If you know, you know. Worms. True. Is this... Does anyone else remember the ants? Some of the other criticisms were about the insta-love and just character development and things like that. I thought it was a very well-written, smutty little book. But that's just me. I rated I Who Have Never Known Men 5 stars. I thought it was very introspective and very profound in certain ways, if you kind of read between the lines a little bit. Not to mention, it's translated from French, so... Alright, first up, she may as well have written a book about a leaf blowing in the damn wind. That is one of the major criticisms I see about this book, is it being very slow and boring. Part of me loves those kind of books, though. I blew through that in like 2 days, but I can see how people wanting action, this is not the book for you. Congrats, you've managed to be a pygmy without even meeting any men. Well, seeing that she is our main character and has never known life outside of an alien planet, that does make sense. Maybe just me. I don't know. Oh, all right, we're in for a big one here. People overhyped it so much I was left hella disappointed. This is one of the most boring books I've ever wasted money on. There's absolutely nothing thought-provoking about this. If anything, it gave me useless-ass questions about all of the plot holes. Surely the writing itself is enjoyable, but damn, the story is boring. It's such a thin book and it took me so long to finish due to how boring it was. Nothing interesting happens, literally nothing, all caps. The twist at the end is also very underwhelming. I can't really remember the twist. I mean, if you've read this book, I think it's just a kind of subtle plateau. I think the twist at the end is that the book is left open-ended, which I personally enjoy when books are left open to interpretation, and I think this book is a prime example of that. Nothing thought-provoking about this. Okay. See, this is when I start to question my own opinions on books, because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I thought it was thought-provoking. Whatever. Another one. One of the most depressing books I've ever read. People say it's an examination of womanhood, but I heartily disagree. The women here are based on old and outdated assumptions. No answers are given to the main character or the reader, which is frustrating. As a piece of nihilism, it works, but that's about all. You know what? I'm gonna look up the definition of nihilism because I feel like people like to throw in big words when they don't really know what it means. Nihilism. We've got some action going on behind the scenes. We're nearing dinner time, so we're in the territory of craziness. Nihilism means the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless. I feel like this book had a lot of meaning. I had to pull up some of the notes I took because it has almost been a year since I read it. Okay, I said that everything brought to us in this book seemed tasteful and purposeful. Every part of this book I enjoyed dissecting because it was such a different perspective. The mystery aspect of this book is something I personally liked. Old and outdated assumptions. What do you even mean? From what I remember in the book, there was a lot of talk about women missing being with their partner, missing the day-to-day mundane things of just civilized life. And our unknown narrator cannot understand that because she has never been in a society where there's a social hierarchy without women. The book touched on a lot of different perspectives that women held within that societal framework that they came from. Who am I to judge, okay? And it was written in like the 1960s, I'm pretty sure. Outdated. It was probably of the time. All right. Jacqueline Hartman was born in Belgium in 1929. This book is back in print for the first time since 1997. So my guess is the author grew up with a lot of these societal norms and a traditional look on relationships, more conservative look on relationships. So yeah, that's probably why it's outdated. Okay, as a piece of nihilism, it works. So essentially she's saying that this book is meaningless. I don't think so. Some of the questions I asked was, what does a person become when stripped to their core, raised in isolation? As someone who took a lot of psychology classes, and my mom is a literal therapist, these are the questions I asked myself, and this was an experiment in itself. Okay, and then for a quote, since we're bringing out the big guns, one of the quotes from this book says, "I am the sterile offspring of a race about which I know nothing, not even whether it has become extinct. Perhaps somewhere humanity is flourishing under the stars, unaware that a daughter of its blood is ending her days in silence." This book was beautiful because our unknown narrator is having this war in her own mind about whether or not she should be missing these things. Why is she not missing these things? Why was she picked to not experience these things? And a lot of these questions are not answered in this book, so I can see how that can be frustrating. But for me, it's very intriguing. Here's another big boy. I'm done with the pseudo-psychological dystopian novels. They're all bullshitting about what it means to be human while giving actually zero effort to showing it within an intricate world building or story. I read this because I wanted to know why there are 40 women kept in a bunker as captives, but yeah, we don't get the answers to that. Also, even though they couldn't escape, which is literally in the blurb, they never encountered anything giving clues about what happened in this world and why everyone just vanished, except those bunkers, which is quite unrealistic in itself, but I guess we don't need context for depressing philosophical musings. So if that's the reason you picked up this book, spare yourself the time and effort. I do not need some space opera or anything like that, but if you want to make a point about what it means to be human, you need to give me some plot or world building where humanity can blossom. This world is literally as bland as the main character. The only point of this book is we are all going to die and journaling is nice. This whole story feels like modern art. It will become meaningful if you put a lot of effort into creating your own interpretations and conclusions. On its own, however, it's just a splash of random colors in random places. Part of me agrees with the last blurb of this review, because something can only be meaningful if we give it meaning. And that is why I respect others' opinions about books, because what may not have been your cup of tea could be piping hot for me. I mean, maybe some people would have liked this book a little bit more if more answers were given, but I may be reaching, I may be creating my own meaning here. I feel as though that was not necessarily the main point, and figuring out why things happened the way they did to the 40 women and the other bunkers was not part of the final message. Alright, going back to the first blurb. Zero effort in showing an intricate world building or story. The only thing I can think of when it comes to this book is the world building is very simplified, again, because I don't think that's the main point of the story whatsoever. This could be compared to like an anonymous memoir in a way, because I found our main character to be very intricate, a very different perspective of how I would think in a situation like this. Reading gives you so many different perspectives. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do more research into Jacqueline Hartman and why she would write something so boring like this. Okay, y'all. I'm not one to get rage baited easily, but we will see about these. In March, I, with every other Hunger Games fan out there, read Sunrise on the Reaping. That was a 6-star read for me. I don't know how somebody could rate it lower than like 2 stars, 3 stars, but they're trying to be different, so I guess I'll give them their voice. We're starting off strong here. So far, this book is so fucking ass. The character of Haymitch is unrecognizable, the themes lamenting about how awful the American government is, and punching you in the face throughout the book. Subtlety doesn't exist, and it seems like a purposeful, regurgitated version of the past books to try and be fun and give parallels, but it just seems lazy and overdone. The writing has also fallen off like a 50-foot cliff. Yikes. Also, if I hear one more goddamn fucking comparison to how the districts are animals for the capital slaughter from Haymitch's repetitive point of view, I'm knocking another star. Edit, I'm knocking another star. Update, I finished the book and am absolutely floored at the praise this piece of shit is getting. Unbelievable. I'm sorry, but the writing and the plot was so unbelievably bad, I was just angry reading it. Hard finish. Well, at least you finished it before you left an angry review. I had a major Hunger Games hyperfixation before the book came out. Also before The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out as well. We already know a lot of things about Haymitch's story to be canon. His games was nothing new, if that makes sense. I think that is kind of the point of the Hunger Games, is that they are an annual thing every year. The trauma inflicted on our main characters is trauma that has also been inflicted on almost every other person in the games ever. Yes, this book was incredibly traumatizing and incredibly sad. But we are getting President Snow still reeling from Lucy Gray. So in a lot of ways, the story is warranted in the craziness we see, because President Snow is crazy. That may just be me justifying and trying to connect dots that aren't even there. In the beginning of this review, she talks about how Haymitch is unrecognizable. Well, yeah, the Haymitch we get was an alcoholic of like 25 years at that point. So yeah, I would expect him to be different before turning to alcohol and drugs. I thought Haymitch's character arc filled in a lot of blanks from what we see in Haymitch in the modern movies and books. I tore through Sunrise on the Reaping, and I thought Haymitch's character was really well written, and the downfall that we see was a reasonable crash out for losing your entire family, the love of your life, having to endure that over and over and over and over again. 25 years. What? Let's move on to the next before I keep... You know, Suzanne needs to put the pen down. I hope I never have to hear the name Lenore Dove again. My god. See, I really liked Loverboy Haymitch. Like, she needs to put the pen down. She's barely picked it up again. What do you mean? We'll be lucky if we get another book from her. Regrettable. Should have stayed in her drafts, not considering canon. Disappointing. It almost makes me think it was a ghostwriter. This review also has 22 likes. I get the argument of putting more trauma and pain into a book with the correlation of giving it higher stars, but I truly thought that there was a lot of meaning in this book. If we're gonna go lore, let's think about it. Okay, the US is coming back from nuclear warfare, and that is where we get President Snow's entry into the world. Entry as a villain as well. Mind you, the US is rebuilding. My guess is the population is not as connected as it once was. District 12 seems like a small, tight-knit community where everybody knows everybody, so I don't think it was fan service. I think everything was intentional, even though it was incredibly heartbreaking. And I didn't just give it 6 stars because of how heartbreaking it was, because that wouldn't make any sense. Because I, as a reader, value plot devices, writing devices, literary devices. So it was not regrettable for me. A formulaic, exploitative, tired, uninspired, fan-servicing misery porn product. In other words, the perfect book for these times of performative reading and franchise-driven storytelling. Don't get me wrong, I think performative reading is a real sickness. Not me though, I'm not infected.
I'm not infected. I have papers to prove I'm not infected.
Okay, back to my main rant. I don't think it was fan servicing because, again, District 12 seems like a tight-knit community where everybody knows everybody, and a lineage is there for a reason. If you have generations of people living in the same town, city, area, yeah, they're gonna know each other.
There's a cow.
There's gonna be cows outside.
Cows outside.
Anyways, exploitative. Are you referring to like Suzanne trying to just make more bank off of this? Because I don't know if you know, but Hunger Games is probably one of the biggest YA dystopian franchises in the book industry since like 2012. It's okay. It's okay. I'll forgive you. I don't know why I'm talking to you guys like you're the one who wrote this, so I don't know why I'm yelling. Alright, y'all. Franchise-driven storytelling. You know, well, when the people speak that they want more, I guess she gave it to us. She was like, here, take the trauma. Because when you say, misery porn product, yikes, that's all I have to say. Okay, I just fucking can't with you guys. Did we read the same damn book? Am I losing my fucking mind? This book is powered by nostalgia, and that is just horrible. Do you want to read a book that has characters you know and love, but aren't actually the characters you know and love because they are written poorly and unrecognizable? But I digress. Doesn't make any sense. And references from previous books that make zero fucking sense and are only there because of nostalgia and fan service. But I digress. Side eye. That is also written incredibly bad. Well, this one's for you. Smiling emoji, ha ha ha. This review is written very poorly. I gotta call attention to how poorly written this is again. Are there other books also this bad? It has only been maybe 6 years since I last read them. Were my standards really that poor at 16? Maybe I'll read them soon. Fuck. The only thing I can compare this to is fan fiction. But saying this is written like fan fiction would be an insult to fan fiction. Half. Unfortunately, I have to round up to 1 star. Screw you, Goodreads. Screw you. That I can agree with, because I don't want to have to write my star rating in the caption in the review. That should be saved for more important matters. What I thought of the book, because I know so many people care about that. For the word vomit that this review is, I don't even want to give my attention to it, honestly, because if you're going to write a review about how poorly a book is written, I would say make sure your review is punctually correct. You're missing a lot of words, girl. I feel like fan service is a really popular buzzword with these 1-star reviews. Again, have you read The Hunger Games? I don't know if fan service is torturing young Haymitch, but before I continue to get heated, let's carry on. Alright, another one. I rated The Night and the Moth 5 stars. I don't know if I'm either like plotly challenged, because I really don't recognize plot holes all that often, and I really try to critically engage with my books, but here we go. Basic baddie goes to the Middle Ages. Sounds like me at the Ren Fair. We don't like violence, but kick everyone in the crotch. If I hear oi one more time, I'm gonna die. With hate from a high fantasy reader. I actually really am enjoying this Renaissance revival that we're seeing, because it's making my Game of Thrones heart happy, which, by the way, I need to read these, so y'all be prepared for a reading vlog. But I felt the plot it came full circle with this book. I found it to be really fun, and I think Rachel Gillig has a simplicity to her writing and her world building that I thoroughly enjoy. I think that is a major criticism of her books, but even in One Dark Window, there's literally one kingdom. I don't even think we get a map. Yeah, we don't even get a map in One Dark Window, because we are in a kingdom shrouded by mist, cut off from the rest of the world. We don't need a freaking map. I'm not a big fan of maps either. We do get one in The Night and the Moth. I'm getting way off track here. Diving in again. After the first few chapters, in which the vibes are immaculate, you can tell the author is just checking off plot beats and romantasy tropes. Big disappointment after the Shepherd King duology. The characters feel flat, their chemistry is underdeveloped, the world doesn't feel real, and the editing is downright sloppy. I mean, this one right here is a real sentence. The door opened to a room with no windows, lit by sunlight cascading from a dome ceiling made entirely out of glass. My brother in Christ. Who approved this? In all seriousness, though, it's very hard to take a book seriously when the writing whips wildly from throwing shadows hither and yon to priestesses who smoke weed, and that said, if you have a nun foot fetish, this is for you. Well, call me a nun with a foot fetish, I don't know. I majorly misread that. You know, in the context of that sentence, yeah, that sounds pretty poorly written. But I think Rachel Gillig has a very beautiful prose about her writing. I think it's very riddle-esque and whimsical, if you will. I think a dome with glass is not considered a window. People try to bring modernity to books. She's obviously trying to get away from the nun stereotype that they are, or without sin. I thought it was fun and didn't think too deeply about it, and I think that's what some of you guys need to do too. DNF at 21%. Tomato, tomato, tomato. Wouldn't give a rat's ass if anyone in this book lived or died. Well, you didn't finish the book, girl, so Like, if you get like 75% of the way through, sure. But if you're dropping the book before 25%, invalid, wrong opinion. I don't even think you can have an opinion on a book. Whatever. And it literally says The Stonewater Kingdom, Book 1. So we are getting multiple books here. Dear God, that was terrible. I wish I could DNF books. Her writing style is just not for me. You know, and that's okay. This is one of the more tame 1-star reviews I've read. More tea for me, I guess. Gillig's writing style at the sentence level is likably atmospheric, but overall this book can be lumped into the category of fantasy that has been boiled down to its most skeletal, festooned with a bit of contradictory magic, and marketed as something other than skeletal. I see we're trying to be profound here. Don't get me wrong, I'm a hater of book tropes and adding them into a book just because. And I feel like it's pretty obvious to me when that's the case, because I really am a big advocate for going into books completely blind. I thought the magic system in this book was very tastefully done. Not as on par with One Dark Window, because it is technically superior. This is another long one. Alright, I'm gonna speed read it. It took me forever to finish this one. Honestly, it would have been good if the stupid gargoyle didn't say Bartholomew 900 times. Did you read the book? It's called Foreshadowing. Every single time he said it, I cringed. Pissed me off. The one singular spicy scene in this was meh. It had potential to be better, but honestly, it was boring. I don't know if this is considered YA or not, but I thought it was fun. The characters had no depth to them whatsoever. I think Kristen Stewart in Twilight had more of a nuance to her than Sybil, and Rory hardly any personality to him. First, he's somewhat sarcastic and snippy, and then nice to her randomly, and that's it. No real reason for the change explained either. The king is a dumbass. I get that he's a young king, but he's stupid. Not one real coherent thought behind those eyes, and so cliche. Like, yeah, now I'm in a position of power. I want all the power. Get a grip, loser. An overplayed trope for kings. Maud was just there, I guess, and the big twist at the end, all that fucking talking from the gargoyle, and he couldn't have told her what was going on, but instead he's like, well, maybe I said Bartholomew a million times, just for the hell of it, with no real context, and maybe I said Bartholomew a million times just for the hell of it with no real context as to why, and expected you to put the pieces together. What a waste of my time and insanity. See, I thought it was so much fun. I was having a really good time with their adventure. But we still have a whole nother book, people, okay? This is just the first one. If it was a standalone, yes, I feel like a lot of these takes would be very valid, but we have a whole nother book, people. Get with the program. Anyways, here is the quote in question. My wife, you said, taking my face between your hands and tipping my chin up just so into the angle that you so enjoyed. You liked me best when I was like an oil painting, perfectly arranged and silent. I think that proves the last sentence of this review to be fairly accurate. I think a lot of the point of this novel was shedding light on someone that you love, even if they're toxic and horrible for you. And maybe it takes you hundreds and hundreds of years to realize. Not every one of us can be incredibly outspoken. Sorry. Were they vampires? Yes. Did it matter? No. The least vampy vampire book I've ever read. More domestic drama than horror. I don't even know if I would consider this horror. I'm pretty sure it's just fiction. Literally fiction on the side. I like the aspect of not necessarily focusing on the vampirism. I was very disappointed in this book, which is a shame because polyamory plus Dracula's Brides is like my jam, my brand. But I thought it was pretty shallow and felt more like an overinflated short story than a work that earned its 230 plus pages. The characters were a little one note and there was just nothing particularly exciting or surprising about this. Sad. I don't really have anything to depose this review. I liked it, and I think that's all that matters. This could have been a 4-star, but I could not look past the fact that they call each other siblings when they are lovers. To each their own. To each their own. I think she was trying to play on the fact that they literally only have each other in the world, and not only that, but Dracula was like manipulating them into leaning on each other rather than him so he could do his weird stuff behind the scenes. And literally treating them like house pets. So I don't know. Neither dark nor seductive. It's cliched, the plot leads nowhere, the characters are all bland, the setting is badly researched with no real historical details. Yeah, I guess. They start in Romania and I think they end in like France or something. That's not necessarily the point. It's just a plot driver for the timeline. Anyways. Alright, now. I read Between Two Fires recently, and this was a 6-star book for me. Be prepared for a video essay analysis of this, because I'm cooking one up as we speak. I'm about to go to war for this book. Judging every last one of you clowns who enjoyed this all-male Christian bummer fanfic. It wasn't a fanfic to me. This was such a beautiful medieval novel. Once you kind of get into the writing style, which reads more like a classic than anything, talk to the wall. As someone who has a religious background, not necessarily pertinent to right now or how I feel about anything faith-wise, but brought me to tears. I think it was so beautiful. Well, it was definitely a book, definitely one written by a man. Can we maybe not describe a teenage girl's breasts, or maybe not have so many thrown her way? Can we maybe not have her see the good and irredeemable men? I hated everything about this, the crudeness, the plot, the writing, the pacing, and the characters. This book lies between two fires of my chronic heartburn and my active fiery diarrhea. First off, gross. Second off, did you not understand the meaning of the whole book as in its entirety? The whole book was about redemption. And if you understood Delphine's character, read it again and then come talk to me, because I will go to bat with this. And I don't want to spoil anything for those of you who haven't read it, but they literally are brigands and thieves and trying to survive. Not justifying anything that they do. But yeah, they're irredeemable in the beginning, just as everyone else is during the Black Plague, because they're all freaking killing each other. I don't know. Amalgam of historical fantasy, horror, and some folklore mixed in. It didn't grab me. I think it was trying to be too many different things at once. I feel this tale of disgraced knight, unpriestly priest, and young girl, witch or angel, traveling to Avignon to stop a battle between good and evil is contrived. Best part was the author's retelling of the Battle of Crecy and the epilogue. This teaches me to avoid such drivel from now on. Did the folks who gave this glowing reviews read the same book I did? More like 1.5 out of 5. Again, I'm not much of a historical buff, so if it wasn't historically accurate. Also, it's a fantasy. Historical fantasy. You're gonna have some weird stuff going on, and stuff that may not be canon to actual history, because fantasy is considered fiction, not real. I'm at a loss. Coworker told me this is his all-time favorite book. Most reviews are positive. I did see a negative saying that it was blasphemous because it's putting Jesus and the church in the bad light. I felt completely opposite of that review. I wanted all the religious and God stuff to relax. I felt more like I was about to open the Bible more and more with this book, to the point that it hurt every single time I picked it up. I finished because all of these positive reviews made me feel like I was missing something, or maybe I had to finish it to get it. The action scenes are poorly written and confusing, and the story drags on way too long, and honestly, I did not like a single character. All could have perished at any time, and I would not have cared in the slightest. From pedophile priest to rapist knights to a little girl that sees the good in them, I disliked everyone so much, I think I'm starting to root for the demons. Where do I even begin? Truthfully, I didn't even get the religious context of this book until halfway through. Maybe even more towards the end. So, yeah, if you're gonna read this blind, do not listen to anything more. Do not read the reviews, do not read trigger warnings, none of that. I really like a accurate, kind of gorier description of more medieval things. And that's what this book was. It was horror. It was nasty, disgusting. And it is a story about redemption. Need I remind you? Pedophile priest, my ass. Sloppy plot, lazy characters without any depth to them. This book has more than 4 stars, and I can't possibly believe it. A book for a bunch of scared, fat nerds who only read low-quality fantasy novels. Sorry, I'm just looking for the scared fat nerd here. I don't know. I mean, I know not everybody is a Game of Thrones fan, but this book heavily reminded me of Game of Thrones, and I love Game of Thrones so much. I don't know if I would consider it high fantasy. It is an epic tale. That's what it says on the front of the book. Of medieval horror. I like it when books don't guide you from point A to point B and hold your hand, because I love interpreting books in my own way and creating my own meaning, which clearly some of you don't enjoy. Don't appreciate either. If you thought the best parts of A Song of Ice and Fire were the cursing, misogyny, and men being creepy towards underage girls, and your favorite character happened to also be the Hound, then sure, this book is for you. Gritty to the point of parody, not historical accuracy. Again, it is a historical fantasy. Yeah, when I posted about this book on TikTok, I said that it shared the same dynamic as Arya and the Hound. An arc of redemption. That's what the book is about. And I feel like this book made a lot of good points about more depraved, low-life individuals and those who are not seeking redemption, not seeking salvation. And Thomas and Matthew were not one of them. Well, this felt like a fever dream. I can agree to that. Well, honestly, it had me mind boggled for a very long time. I do think I'm going to reread it again. Check the validity of these statements and opinions. That was a lot. Got my blood pumping a little bit there. Thank you guys for listening to me reading these diatribes of books I thoroughly enjoyed. Let me know if you guys like these books and if you want me to read more 1-star reviews, because I would love to. Alright, y'all. Peace out.